What's poppin', gamers? What's Revtel and the Tyler estate? Who's the Merchant Kings? And what is up with all of these assassins? Also a bonus, what does the next set icon mean? Okay, so Revtel is a vast nation, so big in fact that they need Wildwing messengers to communicate between the capital and the rest of the nation. It is ruled by 3 Merchant Kings, the Brassherald, Lord Sombreeze and Courtheus, all of which I will come back to. The capital of Revtel, at least I think, is Weeping Rose. It's always nighttime in Weeping Rose, that way the Quorum can harness the power of the stars. Outside Revtel, it's the Sapphire Conclave, including Pierpont, that is the magic authority. But inside Revtel, according to Vanessa, it's the Quorum who's in charge and sends those who disobey to the Tyler estate. The Quorum sends naughty magic abusers to the Tyler estate for imprisonment and punishment, and it's Silencer who is the warden. Anti-Mage also works for the Tyler estate and hunts down bad wizards. We can see in the card Howling Mind and Arcane Censure just how awful it is to be a Tyler estate prisoner. Vanessa, Pierpont and the Sapphire Conclave are particularly interesting because they have been seen in the Drew Wolf unreleased game art. Weeping Rose, the capital of Revtel, and the Quorum I mentioned, is summed up pretty well by Emissary of the Quorum. Okay, so that's the basics of Revtel. Now let's get to the 3 big cities within the nation, each ruled by a Merchant King. There's Weeping Rose that we have touched on, where Lord Sombreeze rules. Then there's Iron Fog, where the Brassherald reigns. And lastly, this might shock you as it did me because I really had to dig to realize this. The last kingdom is Slom. And for any Dota lore nerds, this one is gonna be juicy, okay? Slom is, or was, ruled by Courtheus, one of the Merchant Kings who was assassinated by the Sisters of the Veil. This caused Revtel to now be at war with the Sisterhood, and it was also much to the distress of Debbie the Cunning, because she had also planned on an assassination of Lord Sombreeze to be noticed by the Jasper Circle, but didn't want the Veiled Sisters to get the credit for it. Phantom Assassin from the Veiled Sisterhood doesn't worry about Revtel's anger though, as we see in Murder Plot. Courtheus may have been, unlike the other 2 Merchant Kings, a good man. Gondar has this to say. And the Brassherald, also one of the 3 Merchant Kings, mourns Courtheus. PA speaks of a new Merchant King that will rise, which we have no idea who could be. It may be the Relic Slayer Losel, who we will get back to, or it could be Lycan. It could also be that Courtheus is in fact the last king of Slom, but that's in my theory, which I will tell you after we talk about Weeping Rose and Iron Fog. The second Merchant King, Lord Sombreeze, is Mareska the Dark Willow's father, and he rules Weeping Rose, the capital of Revtel. Also in Weeping Rose, we have White Spire, the Tyler estate, and the Burnt Hall, the latter where they keep cursed artifacts. Lord Sombreeze has sent Gondar the Bounty Hunter to hunt down his daughter. Dark Willow is running away after burning down her father's estate and also maybe stealing an important artifact or 3. Meepo's story intertwines with this because he's in some pretty deep shit after gambling at the courier races of Whitespire. In order to avoid getting killed for his debt he can't pay, he plans to free Dark Willow from Bounty Hunter, so she owes him. Meepo is in trouble with not only the Jasper Circle assassins, but also the Ravenhooks. The Ravenhooks we don't know much about, other than that they are either thieves or anti-thieves or I don't know what the heck. It might be Ravenhook is here talking to Dark Willow, but I don't know who would send him after her. Her father already sent Gondar, so yeah. The Jasper Circle, however, we do know a little about. They are assassins for hire and are led by Lorlin Lasson, and it's the faction Debbie the Cunning wanted to join. Slark is also a Jasper Circle assassin, and we see him in both Dirty Deeds and Gank. The Jasper Circle doesn't only do assassinations, by the way, they are also described as a spy ring. Lorlin Lasson also has an interesting other relationship with a very confusing character called Losel. The only other places we have references is Revtel Convoy, where we know he is terrorizing Iron Fog. We also know from Murder Plot a Relic Slayer is growing bolder in Iron Fog. A Relic Slayer. Let's get my boy Drew Wolf's art again real quick. Sound familiar? I think Losel may be the new Merchant King on the rise, but this is just my gut feeling. I don't actually have a clue, but look at Vanessa, Mazzy, Pierpoint and Jolixia. These have all been added to Artifact. Also look at Nog. I don't know. We'll get back to Knog in another video. But either way, Lothal the Relic Slayer seems to be some sort of machine, which fits well with Iron Fog, the next kingdom of Revtel. The third Merchant King is the Brass Herald, the King of Iron Fog. Because he is the King of Iron Fog, I don't think Iron Fog is just a mine or a small labor camp or something like that. I think it's a city of its own, within Revtel, where morals are even more loose than in Weeping Rose. Weeping Rose are very liberal when it comes to magic, and are known to be a bit shady, but they are nothing compared to the horrifying Iron Fog. Some sources, including the card Slay, hints at the city having machines of some sort that do terrible things. Revtel Investment gives us a hint at the three Merchant Kings. They have each their way of doing business. Iron Fog and the Brass Herald with slave labor, Lord Sunbreeze and Weeping Rose with magic, the Tyler Estate and the Emissary maybe, and Courtheus and Slom, where there was a strict caste system. Now, let's dig into Slom, Lycan, and Beastmaster. By the way, someone on Reddit recently found the set icon for the next expansion, which is nice to have in mind as I explain. So first of all, why do I think the last kingdom of Revtel is Slom? It's not explicitly written on any card, we only know there's a third unnamed kingdom. But while we don't know the name, we know a few things about Courtheus and his death. Let's look again at Rampaging Hellbear. He took great pride in his menagerie. Where have I heard this before? Let's bring out Beastmaster, and no, not from Artifact, from Dota 2. Karak was born a child of the Stalks. His mother died in childbirth, his father, a farrier for the last king of Slom, was trampled to death when Karak was 5. Afterwards, Karak was indentured to the king's menagerie, where he grew up among all the beasts of the royal court. Lions, apes, fell deer, and things less known, things barely believed in. Okay, so Beastmaster was indentured to the king's menagerie. In English, this means he worked at his king's personal zoo. The story on Hellbear Crippler is saying that Phantom Assassin let Courtheus' pets loose, and then while they were distracted by the rampaging animals, she slit the king's throat. But what if PA didn't free the animals? In fact, it was Beastmaster who did, and then PA took advantage of the opportunity? Look at this second cut from Beastmaster's Dota 2 lore. He incited the animals of the court to rebel and threw open their cages to set them amok on the palace grounds. The last king was mauled in the mayhem. It doesn't say he was mauled specifically by the trampling animals. PA setting the animals free is only the Brass Herald's word. What if he's not aware of what actually happened? What if Beastmaster freed the animals, and then PA did the assassination? Beastmaster's lore and artifact is set at a different time for Courtheus' assassination, much later, because he was only a boy when the last king of Slom, Courtheus, was killed. The story in Revtel is in fact way before the story in Roseleaf. Still not convinced Courtheus was the king of Slom? Let's look at Lycan, who also happens to be an artifact, but his story mysteriously doesn't intertwine with anyone. The only thing we have connecting Lycan's artifact lore to anything is that it includes Slom, and that the House of Embry's emblem might be the second set's icon, like Call to Arms. Lycan is from the House of Embry, as we see in his card text and Unearthed Secrets. In his artifact lore, we only know that his family were nobles and good guys who were killed. But if we just like with Beastmaster take a peek at his Dota 2 lore, everything suddenly makes sense. Here's a few snips from his Dota bio. Banehallow was noble-born to the House of Embry, the greatest of the landed castes in the old kingdom of Slom. Before the fall, as the king's wants grew strange, and his court grew crowded with sorcerers and charlatans, the House of Embry was the first to set rise against avarice to the throne. No longer willing to pay homage and fealty, they instead sent 6,000 swords into the capital, where they were wiped out by the massacre of the apostates. Enraged by the betrayal, the king exterminated the vast Embry bloodline, sparing only the lord of the house and his youngest son, Banehallow. Before all the royal court, with the disgraced lord chained to the ornate marble floor, the king bade his magicians transform the boy into a wolf so that he might tear out his own father's throat. His spirit remained intact, and instead of biting the exposed neck of his father, he attacked his handlers, tearing them to pieces. A dozen of the king's knights perished under the wolf's teeth before they managed to drive it off into the night. So, his father rebelled against the king of Slom, the same king, mind you, from Beastmaster's lore, after the king was evidently mad because of his personal zoo and surrounding himself with sorcerers. The king of Slom, who we now know is Quirtheus, stopped the rebellion and killed everyone in Lycan's family except his father. Then the sorcerers turned Lycan into, well, a Lycan, and tried to make him execute his own father, but instead Lycan escaped, the last son of House Embry. The fact that the third kingdom of Revtel needs a new king, and the fact that they put Lycan into the story while specifically calling him the last son of House Embry, makes me think that maybe it's because Lycan will be the one to take the throne. Especially considering the leaked icon for the second expansion, maybe it will be Lycan's fight up the hierarchy. However, he is seeking out revenge, so maybe not. Also, in the Dota 2 lore, the King of Slom is referred to as the last King of Slom, so maybe there never will be a new king as the artifact story develops. Who knows, but either way, the assassinated King Quirtheus being the King of Slom is so satisfying to me. So many dots connected. This video is part of my huge Call to Arms video series coming out. I have written everything and it's all done, it's all good. I'm only waiting for the Call to Arms comic to come out before I publish it, to make sure I don't have anything wrong or nothing new huge is revealed, because my CTA vid is so big, I might cut it up in smaller pieces for those of you who, like me, have a very short attention span. Yeah. I have lately been streaming a lot and not making as many videos, and because there's over 1,000 of you now, I think you deserve to know the truth of why. The thing is, I'm struggling a little bit mentally, like, it's not just a meme. And what exactly is wrong with me doesn't really matter, but it does affect my sleep and other things essential for behaving like a normal person. And it has been extra bad the past month, but I feel like I'm getting better now, so I hope to upload more frequently. I always get annoyed by YouTubers apologizing for not uploading enough, which is why I won't apologize, and I don't want your pity. I just thought I'd explain in case anyone was wondering. Anyways, thanks for watching, gamers. Keep it poppin'. Peace.